Hello! In this video we study other examples of fake news in history and different methods of spreading misinformation. In the final review, some tips for fact-checking, an important process seeking to investigate an issue in order to verify the facts. A traditional way since ancient times is the one today known as muckraking, used to discredit and influence public opinion. The mud machine describes false news spread in order to deliberately attack a person, as it happened for the Dreyfus affair, a political scandal that divided the Third French Republic.
It all begins on Rue de Lille in Paris at the German embassy. Here is Madame Bastian, the embassy's housekeeper. In fact, Madame Bastian was member of the French counterintelligence service. Every day, the agency pretends to empty the dustbins and report the contents to the Commander Henry, and in this day of September 1894, she finds in the dustbin a letter after known as bordereau, torn in 6 large, not signed and not dated pieces, addressed to the German military officer in station at the German embassy Max von Forty. The bordereau mentions confidential French military documents that must be transmitted to a foreign power. The Minister of War orders an investigation, and very quickly an ideal responsible is being identified in Captain Alfred Dreyfus. He is at the army headquarters and he has access to important documents. He's from Alsace and therefore speaks German, which allows him to communicate. The muckraking machine is then set in motion. How to summarize the incredible succession of lies, forgeries, false witnesses, fake documents, misappropriation of information, and violation of the law from the army and the military courts. An anti-Semitic newspaper, La Libre Parole, revealed that affair that was unleashed against Dreyfus. It was the start of an anti-Semitic campaign that was to spread through France. The army then brandishes a secret file, a secret document that must not be disclosed, which it says contains proof of Dreyfus' guilt. Later, much later, the folder will turn out to be empty. Dreyfus is sentenced to perpetual deportation to the French Guiana island, Île du Diable, so there is military degradation. The newspaper exalts in anti-Semitism. The country regrets that he is not condemned to death. The terrible ceremony of January 5, 1895. This degradation in the courtyard of the military school in front of 4,000 soldiers and 20,000 spectators. They tore off his insignia, they thin strip of gold from his stripes, the facing of the sleeves and the jacket. They broke the sabres and of the condemned man. In Paris, his brother Mathieu is fighting. He deploys an incredible energy to exonerate his brother. The first to join him is a moderate journalist, Bernard Lazare. Little by little, they succeed in making the irregularity of the trial heard. The Dreyfusards, as defenders of Dreyfus are now called, are organized and supported by anti-military circles. He's asking for a review of the trial. Behind of the Dreyfusards of the first hour, Mathieu Dreyfus and Bernard Lazare, politicians like Clemenceau Léon Blum, writers like Octave Mirbeau, and above all, Émile Zola, a writer at the top of the glory who will use his popularity to defend the truth. On January 13, 1898, the newspaper L'Aurore published a letter from Zola to the President of the French Republic, Félix Faure. 6 columns on the front page of the newspaper, surmounted by the famous J'accuse. Normally print 30,000, Aurora arrived to sell over 300,000 copies. That day Zola takes over the whole affair from the beginning. They accuse to the army the Minister of War of falsifiers. His goal to be indicted to be able to reconsider the irregularities of the trial of Dreyfus. Zola is condemned for defamation of the army, but his goal is achieved. The general public is made aware of the sordid detail of the trial of the case. Dreyfus has not long since become a matter of state, which leads to formidable instability within the government. In 1899, the final revision of the trial finally is offered grace, which he, totally exhausted, ends up accepting, to the great displeasure of the Dreyfus Dreyfus are who want to obtain his acquittal. Dreyfus, as if he weren't already sufficiently overwhelmed, now finds himself alone, abandoned by most of his supporters. Dreyfus was released from prison on September 21, 1899, but it was not until 1906, after many adventures, that Alfred Dreyfus was finally rehabilitated. He participated in the 1418 War and died in 1935.
Now, let's see another example of fake news in history, more precisely during the violent clashes in Cairo in August 2013. In this video, you can see how prestigious agencies like CNN or Washington Post can spread fake news. In this case, refer to demonstrators throwing a police car off a bridge.
It's now just after 10 p.m. in Cairo. A curfew has been in effect there for 3 hours following a day full of scenes like this one. That was an armored police vehicle you just saw thudding to the ground, reportedly pushed off a bridge by supporters of Morsi's party, the Muslim Brotherhood. They are clashing with forces of the interim government who have opened fire in the streets. Egypt declared a month-long state of emergency this morning. Secretary of State John Kerry this afternoon condemned the violence, calling for a prompt transition to a civilian-led democracy.
Look at this video. As you can see, demonstrators are never seen pushing the car off the bridge. Clearly needed a more detailed look. So here are the steps taken to evaluate the content and to establish how things really went. The truck flips upside down before slamming violently into the ground. It's not clear whether or not people were in the truck at the time, but a subsequent photo shows two security officials played, one on the truck's now skyward underside and another on the ground nearby. The video also shows several protesters rushing toward the truck, although it's difficult to tell if they were rushing to help or to grab the security officials.
And now just the facts. An extremely useful tool for detecting fake news is fact-checking. What is fact-checking and why is it important?
To describe it simply, fact-checking is making sure that claim is true. You take whatever sentence or whatever claim you're checking and you try to determine the best way to verify each fact. What you really have to do as a fact-checker is approach each claim as a prosecutor would. You're putting the claim on trial and you want to get to a position where a judge and jury would say, yes, that claim is true. And fact-checking is very important to that, because in order to find out what really happened in history, we have to make sure we get the facts straight. A lot of what we focus on is how certain media narrative says 20, 30 years ago, the first draft of history, how those were covered at the time, how people expected those issues to play out and how they actually played out. As you can see, it can be difficult to know who or what to trust. So how do you know if a source is reputable and trustworthy? When you find something on the internet, don't just take it at face value. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? Who is claiming it and why possibly are they claiming it? And try to find out as much as you can about the source before you trust it. Fact-checking can help set the record straight so that we can learn from our mistakes and hopefully not make them again. History is full of lessons, and to really understand those lessons, you have to understand what actually happened.